Do you wish your farm life included more family time and recreation? Learn how it can with Jennie Kapszukiewicz on this episode of Food, Flowers, and Fun. We are sponsored, as always, by Penlight for Farmers, helping farmers create purposeful farm lives rich in time, energy, and abundance. If you're the woman who does it all, farm work, housework, bookwork, homework, getting up at the break of dawn, this is the podcast for you.
How do you multiply by fractions now?
Get away from the cares of the day. Restock, rootstock, feedstock, seedstock. Chat with women around the world who raise food, flowers, and fun. With your host, Kay Castrataro. That's me. Welcome back to Food, Flowers, and Fun Visits with farm women from around the world. And today we have an amazing farm woman here, Jennie Kapszukiewicz. And she is both the owner-operator of Stonehill Farm and involved with American Farmland Trust. So she has both the producer and the ag service provider perspective. Jennie, thank you so much for coming today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for, inviting me to join your podcast. I can't wait to chat and share and see where we go. And thankful that the power's on after this again. Let's be honest. Yep.
Some days we really have a very low bar. Like, are we fed? Are we clothed? And do we have electricity?
Is the power on? 100%.
It's always a nice thing too. So Jennie, why don't you just start in and tell us a little bit about who you are, where you came from, how you got into this lovely thing that we call agriculture, and we'll go from there.
Okay, you bet. So I married into this world of agriculture. I didn't realize when I said I do what I was actually saying I do too. So I guess I should have seen the writing on the wall when I was dating a fourth generation farmer, dairy farmer. He was milking his family's dairy herd on their family farm right here in town. But he had left that, gone off and gotten a college degree and was pursuing other things. And I stepped in, we got married, and then boom, you want to farm? I'm like, what? I did not grow up in a farming family. My father, when he sold the dairy herd in the 1950s, vowed to never have anything that ate or pooped again. So talk about worlds colliding.
But you have that dairy background. And I gotta tell you, like I tell people all the time that I think farming's just in the DNA. Like it really is something that you're either born with it or you're not. And you might not realize that you were carrying that DNA. It might take a while to express and it might skip a few generations, but yeah, so your dad had already passed that on to you. You were stuck. You just didn't know it.
I was sucked in. And certainly while we didn't have animals growing up, large animals growing up, we certainly were raised with a really strong work ethic, which, as most farmers understand, has to translate onto our farming operations, right? So we either are working hard or we're not farming. They don't seem to coexist to be, a relaxed, lazy farmer. And if there's someone out there who has figured that out, please send me a message.
Oh, well, see, this is what I help people with, energy, time, abundance.
I need all of those things. All of those things.
So talk to me about how you transitioned from doing not farming to here we are. Now we're in it. Because what was he pursuing that made you think you weren't going to be farming until he got you with the ring?
He did.
Kind of a little sneaky of him. I gotta say that's a bait and switch.
Clearly, it was his looks that hooked me. Right. He was her persuasive personality. I know. Yeah. So for us, it came down to the parcel of land we purchased, right? So we both grew up on large parcels of land, and that was really important for us to raise our family. So it started early in our marriage when we acquired a large parcel of land here in town. And we initially started to just make hay because it was a vacant cornfield. So we kind of enjoyed the fact that the space was still open. So the most logical method was to keep it in production under hay so that we still, didn't have to deal with all kinds of invasives and it growing up. And that's kind of where it started. Now, I was a teacher. I was a teacher for 20 years and I believe in education. So when he was like, "Oh, let's, do this." I was like, "Oh, I can make this work for me, right?" Like I thought we were just making some hay and then animals came and then more than one species of animals came. And then before you know it, I was farming more full time than I realized and trying to teach and that wasn't working so great anymore. And we do have three kids who are now teenagers. So our early farming days were spent with like toddlers running around and keeping them safe, keeping me safe, trying to figure out how to integrate little people into the farming landscape was tricky. And now we
And
have,
how did you manage that? Because I do this. I'm gonna just like jump
yeah,
in and,
jump
and
in.
derail us several times because it's so much fun for me to do that. But I realized that difficulty of balancing small children and livestock when I had my own son, and I only had two horses. I guess at that time it was a horse and a goat because one of the horses had died, and so we had a goat to keep the horse company. Very, very convoluted. But anyway, you still have a horse and a goat. You got to go out and feed them and
Yeah.
clean stalls and do all of that stuff. And I had a newborn. And so I didn't want to like I would carry him for lots of stuff, but like on in the sacks and stuff. But I was like, well, I don't want to do that with a horse because they're big and they're dangerous. And as much
Mhm.
as I love my horses and trust them, I don't trust anything with my kids. Like so I'm like one bad day and you have a really bad day. So I had like a playpen in this grain room, and I could hear him, I could see him, I would sing to him, but he would cry, and I was like, my heart was breaking. And now I look back and I'm like, man, maybe I did like I don't know. Maybe we had some attachment disorder stuff going on there. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I caused like irreparable emotional harm to this
Yeah.
child that I am now trying to, I'm using the adolescent second window of opportunity to try to rebuild all of that. But I do sit there and say, man, like, were all those hours of nursing kind of counterbalanced by the 1 hour in the barn where he's crying and I'm like, I hear you, and I can't help you.
I think a lot of farm families are in the same boat, raising their children, right? We all kind of come up with that strategy. So I have very vivid recollections of building fence at midnight, right?
Oh,
So we didn't even talk about we do raise grass-fed beef cattle here. So we have a head of 30 cattle right now. And so I can remember building a fence. It was December. There was snow on the ground. We needed to finish it. And I had to do it when the kids were asleep. So I had baby monitors like all attached to me, right? Like just listening for our daughter at the time who was still nursing. Like, would she wake up? Like the house was always in sight. But it was like one of those things where, wow, I was exhausted, like getting that done.
right.
We used to make hay here, and I remember my daughter, she was just kind of toddling around outside, and I was like, "Hey, I got to get out of the hay trailer. I don't see her anymore." And she had cut off all of her pigtails. It just takes a second, right? So we are
Yeah.
very fortunate that our farm is located pretty close to our parents. And so we could not be as successful at what we do if it wasn't for a really integrated family network
Mm,
where I can dump my kids off to an aunt or uncle's house or a grandparent's house, or they
yeah.
come here. We would not be as successful as we are if it wasn't for our network of family and friends.
Yeah.
And they get to
And
eat
I
great.
think
So,
that's I love that message because I think that is something that we forget as farmers. Like, I think a lot of the farm ethos is kind of like you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you do it all yourself. Like, you're self-contained. We are an island
yep.
unto ourselves. And the fact is that we really should not be trying to function that way because just like cattle are herd animals, like people are
Hmm.
herd animals as well. Like we need that community, and And I think that your acknowledgement of that is hugely important. So for the people who don't have those family and friends that are close by that can help, that makes farming even harder.
It
Yeah.
does. I mean, it was that pigtail incident that made me realize that I couldn't be a hero by myself, because I don't ask for help very well and I don't say no very well. So I have a whole bunch of personal challenges with boundaries. And so that incident made me realize, wow, I guess I have to find, like, someone to always monitor the kids.
Yeah,
We
because this
did,
time it was pigtails, and
yeah, what
next
would have
time
been
it
next
could have
time?
been something
Something
else.
else. And
Oh,
we don't
we
want to,
all do we not all have that moment? Like if we're fortunate as parents, we have that one moment where we're like,
that
that
could have
could have been a
been way worse.
catastrophe. And we're
Mhm.
able to, and some people, my heart goes out to them because some
Do
people
not
do
have that
not get
opportunity.
that
Hmm.
opportunity. Like their first time is a catastrophe.
Yep.
And to just speak to that right now and say, you know, it is a blessing when you get that pigtails cut off moment
It
and
a
you
hundred
say, all
percent is.
right, I can do something different. Yeah.
It's that reminder of, we had equipment before we had children, right? So like it's that reminder to say, okay, keys come out of equipment. Because boys and kids, I mean, we have two sons and a daughter. They're curious as all get out. And so it was that reminder to say, okay, this is a new period of our lives, and where we used to just leave equipment, keys and equipment, it had to change, right? And then we were
You got to
losing keys all the
childproof the
time.
whole farm. It's not just childproofing your house. Like forget the little plastic lock
Yeah.
things that
The
that by the
outlet
way,
covers, right?
my kids are 10. My kids are 12 and 13 and I still have some of those remnants like I just haven't
Yeah.
taken them off.
100. I still have outlet covers on that. I was like, wow, I guess I never put anything in that outlet, right?
I have the protector covers on my stove. I have a gas
Yep.
stove, and I have the protector covers on
Just
because
holding on.
actually sometimes even now, like I'll go by and I'll be like, wait a minute, I smell gas, and like if you turn it the
Yep.
wrong way, like so now I just keep them on to like adult proof the house.
We do need saving from ourselves sometimes, right? This is true. This is true.
Right. Oh my goodness. Okay, so once you got that support system now, I seem to remember that both of you are still working full-time off the farm
We
as well
do.
as farming. And we all know that any kind of farming is a full-time job in and of itself, even if we're doing some of the lesser intensive forms of farming. And you're not because you have livestock. I feel like as soon as you
Yeah.
have livestock, even if they're like beef animals who are a little bit more self-sufficient, if you're able to give them enough feed, it's not like they need to be milked twice a day
Yep.
or something, but they still need to be, you still got to be checking fence. You still got to be making sure they're healthy. You still have to make sure the water is not frozen.
Mhm. Yes.
Look,
All of those things.
so how do you balance that with two full-time jobs? Because now you've got three full-time jobs between two adults.
Yeah, and we have, like I said, the three kids. So now they're athletes, so and musicians. So carting them to their various locations is tricky. So when I was a teacher, it was really challenging. Teachers, just like any other career, has a very rigid schedule. And so 4 years ago, well, about 5 years ago now, I've been at this new position for 4 years. We made the decision that something had to give, and it was my career, because
Mhm.
it was just the easier one to pivot and navigate from. And so I started looking for positions that would give me more flexibility to be closer to the farm, closer to my kids. So it was a twofold event, not just about the farm.
Sure,
And
sure.
so I applied for a position at American Farmland Trust. It was one of those things where I didn't think I stood a chance because I didn't have any of the agronomy training or the collegiate social sciences or the animal sciences, nothing. I applied and I was hired because of my on farm experience and knowledge about the systems. And so it was very exciting because I now get to stay on my own farm most of the time. And I get to go on other people's farms and help them be more successful at what they're doing. And so that was pivotal for us. And it's allowing us to grow our farm because we still both need incomes, unfortunately, in
Yes.
this day and age of getting into agriculture, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, it's expensive no matter what you want to do.
Hmm.
And so this allows me that opportunity to be mom, be farmer, be present, and still have a paycheck. So,
Yeah. So that, I mean, that in one way sounds like you have it all. Like you are the
oh,
woman that everybody's like, you can have it all. You can have the family, the farm,
you
the
know.
career. Like,
I would love to ditch the job. I mean, I love my job. If anyone from American Farmland Trust is listening to this today, I love, love, love my job. But, I think we all crave for that. We crave on our own farm for us to be full-time farming. And land acquisition is what has caused that to probably not happen maybe in our generation, right?
Mm.
And that's just a reality. So, but we all wish, my husband and I wish that we could just get up every day and be stewards of the land, be with our
Mm.
animals, raise our family in a different kind of way, in a different setting. I mean, because that ultimately was our initial goal with our family was that they would have these opportunities to be on a land and be, with animals. And so we didn't even talk about like our kids and how they are integrated in our farm.
Well, when you said that, I just wanted to say I was going to tie that. It's perfect segue. See, we're linked through the
We're
internet
dialed in.
space. There we are. Because I was remembering that you had said that you when you bought the farm and you decided to go into farming, you and your husband looked at it and said, this was our decision. This wasn't a decision that the kids made. And so, unlike most farm families where the kids are expected, like, here are your farm chores, here are your farm responsibilities. I know, like, when we bought a dairy farm, I was a freshman in high school, and it was a family decision. And we were all like, if we're all in, and we were getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we were feeding, and we were milking, and we were cleaning the barn and all that stuff. And that wasn't the approach you guys took. So can you
Yeah.
talk to us
Yeah.
about how that has played out for you?
Yeah, so we both felt very strongly that our decision to farm was ours and that we wanted our kids along for the ride, but we never wanted them to feel forced or pressured. We wanted them to develop the enjoyment on their own.
Mm.
And we felt that the only way to do that, or at least in our minds, was to not make it an expectation. So when we started farming, it was our commitment. We were going to make it happen without their help. But we always found ways to integrate them into our farm. And they started to want to come out on their own. They wanted to do chores. In the beginning, they were just playing around, running a piece of machinery or cleaning the pen or
Right.
feeding an animal. But I remember we had gone to a conference one time and we had come back, and I think our son was probably like 7 years old. And I said, hey, I think we should do chickens and raise eggs. And so we actually made that our son's like first enterprise. And we kind of gave him that responsibility to say, if you want to do this, this is your thing. And, you know, we'll fund and support it from the farm side, but make this your thing. And so they developed the egg mobile and,
Oh,
they had their own little thing out there where, did it wane and wax sometimes? Yeah, sometimes I was still going out there and doing chores, but it was not like they had to do it. And so now, as teenagers, each one of our children is integrated in the farm in a very different way. They have chosen the things on our farm that they are inspired and interested in doing. So we have one son who is an incredible machine operator. Um, After having lots of guidance and visual watching, he's 18, so now he's at this place where he's completely independent with equipment. He is a skilled operator, right? And so that's helpful. We have our daughter who is an animal lover, so she is very good with handling our animals and integrated that way. And then our middle son is that one kid who, just prefers to go out and lay on our horses or touch them or just be part of them. And his
mm,
involvement with the farm is probably the least. But I'm thankful for that because even though we didn't push them into it, they found the things about the farm that brought them joy because we
yeah.
didn't want them to hate us.
Well, and as you're saying that, it's funny because I have a client who is an animal therapist, and so she uses horses, and one of the things that they do is just laying on the horses
Hmm.
and like just hanging out and connecting with them. So as I'm hearing this, I'm like, I don't know, you might have an animal therapist there and
Yeah,
he
well, he
might
certainly
not
was
even
one.
know it yet.
Well, so he was one of those kids that has sensory processing disorder. So
There you go.
he fits his, likeness of our farm very, very well, right?
Yes.
He doesn't like to be controlled in a box, so him having like the freeness to go everywhere. He's our
Yeah.
barefoot kid, right? He's like, that's that you got to give it up, right? In the farm in the middle of the wintertime, he's outside with no shoes on. And, my husband's like, you got to make him wear boots. I'm like, trust me, give him 5 minutes and he'll be back inside for boots. It's not an argument I'm willing to have, at the door.
Oh
He'll
my
come back. Sure
gosh.
enough,
I
trot back
started
in.
that with my kids so young. Like, and I had people all the time looking at me like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, listen, if my kid by 8 years old, if I tell them to wear a coat when they're leaving the house and they're not wearing a coat, then obviously they need to learn a different
Yep.
way. And
Yep.
my children are both, they're like my ex. Like he is like a furnace. And so he was always hot. I'm always cold. So my kids are just like him. So
Yep.
when
Shorts in
I'm
the
like
winter, I'm sure.
layered up, they are the ones out there with shorts or like
Yep.
t-shirts. And I'm like, aren't you cold? And they're like, no,
Yep.
mom, no, you're crazy. I'm like, all right, well, the coats are here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So raising kids on the farm has been an exciting and fruitful and, something that parenting is tough. Just
Oh my
take
gosh.
farming out of
Hardest
it.
job ever.
Parenting is hard. That
Yes.
was not in any book I read or maybe I just chose not to pick those up. I don't know.
No, no, they skip that. They skip it so that we keep the species going.
Yeah, exactly. Because I
They
was
tell
like,
you they tell you
not
it's the
prepared.
most fulfilling thing you'll ever do. And I'm like, seriously? I
So
don't
I
know
had no
about
hair,
that.
right? Pulled it all out.
Like,
Just
do you see the gray?
couldn't do it, right? But you throw the farm in it and it just changes things
Yeah.
both good and in a way that makes you have to think about a lot of different things, right? So I don't
Yeah.
want to use the word bad because the farm is not a bad place for
No,
our
I use
children.
challenge. It's a
It's
challenge.
it's just a challenging place, but the rewards that we all have at the end of the day are just incredible. This weekend we spent developing our 2026 farm goals and
Oh,
like what we wanted to do. And so
love it.
off to my side here, I have a calendar for the whole year with sticky notes all over it about things we want to accomplish and what our deadlines are. And it's very exciting that, the kids can be part of that. And, they are teenagers, right? So it's exciting that they can be part of that goal planning, that we can determine like what is feasible to get done and then how do we integrate family time, right? So when they see those two on the same chart paper, what do we want to do as a family versus what do we want to accomplish as a farm, making it all work is tricky, right? Like escaping for a family vacation, hard, but a priority, right? So it's how do you figure it in? And then when the kids are always like, we're so busy with the farm, then I'm like, what can go on the farm to give us more time somewhere else?
Mm.
So having
Oh,
them
I
be part
just
of the business.
Yeah, I want to really sit with this for a minute, Jenny, because I think this is so beautiful in so many ways. So, first of all, I think every farm, I think every person needs to do this kind of activity at the beginning of each year or like the tail end. Actually, probably the best time to do it is the tail end of a year because
Yep.
you've got
You
all of
celebrate
what's
what you did.
that's it. You celebrate it. You say what worked, what didn't work,
Yep.
and then how are we going to do things differently? What are we going to keep going? Like I just think it's a perfect time to do it. And it's not a New Year's resolution. It's a goal planning and a goal
Hmm.
setting thing where you like I have a Gantt chart that I use with my
Yep.
clients that has every month spread out and you look at the different tasks you want to do and how do they fit together just like you're talking about Troy Bishop has his grazing what does he call it?
Oh,
He
he
has a
does
graze
the grazing
it,
charts where he does the year in advance in the little blocks. I have those too.
and puts his family time in there and
Yep.
all of this he talked
Yep.
about scheduling in his daughter's wedding so he didn't like not have time
Yeah,
for his
wasn't be
daughter's
present.
wedding.
Wasn't present.
Good dad.
Good old Troy. Good thing for being there. I happened to
Love
see
him.
pictures of it, so I know he physically was present. So,
And the cows weren't.
and the
But
cows weren't.
cows
Yes.
weren't. But I think also for your teenagers, what an amazing thing because you are setting an example for them of how to do that. Because
Hmm.
how many of us get to the end of a year and say, oh, I really want to do that this year. And I just am not good at planning. And
Yep.
so we kind of write it off and say, oh, it's too big, it's too much. And to be honest, for some of us are not designed well for planning. Like I love the concept of planning, but I tend to be a little bit of a free spirit as well. So I have to really sit down and like say, okay, this is the time we're doing the planning, and then I can do it very well.
Hmm.
Others of us have never even had it modeled. And so, how to go about doing that feels incredibly overwhelming. And getting a little bit of help, especially the first year to do that, like
Yep.
there are people, I'll help you with that. American Farmland Trust. Like there
Yep.
are people who
Exactly.
are skilled at doing that and they have lots of expertise and it's really important to do it. But when you're bringing your kids into that and you're saying it's not just the farm or just the family, it's the farm and the family.
Hmm.
That's that farm life that I talk about,
Yep.
like having the whole picture. And I love what you say about, well, you feel like we're not having enough time for the stuff you want to do. What has to go?
Yep.
Something
Something
has to
has to.
go. So
Yep.
you make a choice. Like, is the farm activity that you're doing right now more important to you than, something else? And
Yep.
maybe it's a sport. Like maybe you're like, ah, I enjoy this sport, but I don't want to do it forever.
Yep.
So maybe
Exactly.
I'll focus on this because this is more of a career goal. Or you say, well, I really love the sports and I'm only going to be able to play team sports for a certain period of time. And so I can always pick up this farming thing at a future time. I'm going to really invest in my sports right now because this is the time that I have for it.
Exactly.
And so I
Exactly.
I love that like teaching them to say what's important and that it doesn't you don't have to throw it all out forever just because you're not going to
Yep.
focus on it now. Like you've got a long life
Yeah,
ahead of you,
it's
Lord
true.
willing.
And we also have a really big, we have a big addition project that has been going on for a little over a year now. And the kids were, when we were reflecting on what we have accomplished, right? They saw it as a deficit that we didn't finish this project, this addition. And so
Mm.
when we mapped out 2026, we all realized how enormous of a project it actually still is, right? And so it was helpful for the kids to see, wow, mom and dad really didn't try to not get it done. It was way bigger than any of us actually, because we itemized everything, right? So sometimes you can go down rabbit holes when you make to-do
Yes.
lists, and sometimes you don't want to go down those rabbit holes, but we decided it was important to actually put almost every item that had to be done on all of our projects so that we could see it in real time and go, wow.
Yeah.
On a night's holiday, so our farm, we consider nights, holidays, and weekends, even though we are almost farming full time sometimes.
Yep.
Can we actually accomplish that when you put it in month format on the weekends? Like, is it even feasible? Are we setting ourselves up for failure right before we even
Yeah.
have started? And so that was a really helpful exercise for myself, for our
Yeah.
kids. My husband has told me twice to move it out of our living room because he doesn't want to look at it right now, right? So like
Little anxiety producing, is it?
can see
Some
it over
people
there, right?
really don't like looking at the big picture. Like the big picture is scary, especially when it's all broken down into those little pieces, because those little pieces are super essential. Like if
Yep,
you just look at it as I'm building an addition, okay, well that's fine. Well, do you have a foundation?
yep,
Do you know how to do the foundation? Like
yep.
what are you doing for materials? How much money do you have to
And
do you
money
have
is
electrical
another,
skills? Do
I
you have
mean,
plumbing?
yeah,
What do we have to do about plumbing? Like
for sure,
this is
for
why I
sure.
was like there is no stinking way we are ever building a house. Like
Yeah,
my
so
ex I when I met my ex I'm like, "Listen, I lived as a child in a house that we built. I'm never doing that.
not
So
doing
we're
it again.
buying a house that is built." And we bought a
It's
small house because I
true.
was like, it's going to be tight with the kids. But you know what? When they move out, I don't have to buy a new one.
Yep, 100%. So we've been able to figure out how like our kids can be integrated. So and great learning has taken place. Like our son, he was 17 at the time. He dug our cellar hole, right, with our excavator. So like
Yeah.
he's learning how to be part of that. our daughter now, she's like, well, I want it to be done. So I said, well, we have to stain all of the siding in the house because now it's winter. So we have to stain inside. Are you willing to stain with mom so we can get these things done in the evening hours? And so it's nice to see where they can step up. And I'm also, so our sticky notes are color coded based on farm, family, addition. And so
Nice.
we're putting things where if we have extra money in our budget, where can we outsource? So, like, is this an item that if we find funds, we can pay someone else to do it for us?
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, well, maybe I want to budget differently. Maybe I want to like save more money because that's really important that someone else do it because I don't want to do
Right.
that. So
Yes.
it's a
Oh
great planning tool,
gosh,
and
what
I
a
encourage
great.
everybody to do it.
Oh
At
my
American
goodness.
Farmland Trust, we are working now with farms to encourage this type of planning, whole farm planning, and so it's wonderful. So I get to practice all the time on my own personal farm with our kids and family to like dry run a method or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's really important because for me, I want to see agriculture sustain, right? And I work for an organization that has done all the data, right? So we know that because of American Farmland Trust's Farms Under Threat report, how much agricultural land is being developed every day across our country, and we are not ever converting those acres back into agriculture. So, I personally have a mission. I didn't realize I did when I got married. I didn't know that this was the person I was going to become, but that's really where my education has intersected with my life as a farm woman.
Yeah.
I chair our ag commission here in town. It's very important for me that we continue to show avenues that future farmers can come into agriculture as hard as it may be. We just need to be pro ag. And that is something I never saw coming, to be like a patriot of agriculture, and be like, hey, I'm going to be this, this
Advocate.
advocate, this
There's a woman,
spokesperson.
Natasha Stein calls it an advocate, and I love it. I
Advocate. Yep.
totally love it with the G. Like,
Yep. Connecticut had a program, part of RC&D, once that was called Advocate. And
there you go.
yeah, so it's really important, and if we don't find ways to support each other. So right, like I just want to put this out there that while this sounds super positive, there are days where I'm drowning, right? Like I do not want to sugarcoat the fact that there are some really tough days for me as a mom, for a wife, for a farmer, like not wanting to like get out of the bed, but realizing that if I don't, who is coming behind me?
Yeah.
But if we don't support each other, right? So we on our own farm have chosen the farming methods that work for us, right? It's our choices, it's what makes sense in our heads, it's what makes us happy. But even if my neighbor farmer isn't doing it the way I do it, you better believe I'm out there supporting that farmer. I'm promoting that farm in whatever way I can because if we don't lift each other up, we're only harming the future of farming.
Right.
So that has been a side of me that I wasn't. I mean, obviously, as a teacher, so I was really a special education teacher and a special ed
Yep.
admin. I was always an advocate for kids and families who were not necessarily as advantaged as some other learners in the school system were. And
Mhm.
so I see how that translated into this new world of agriculture. It's just not something I thought when I was, 22 and freshly married that this would be the person I would become and not afraid to speak in front of large groups of people about things that I'm passionate about, because I want to see my kids, your kids, someone else's kids be the next generation on the
Yeah.
family farm.
Yeah, and I love so much of that. There's so much to tease out of that. But the one that's hitting me right at this particular moment is that idea of not knowing that all of these things that have gone before were going to coalesce into who and what you are right now. And I think that we women of a certain age, I think I've got a lot of friends who are my age, and we're all dealing with this like perimenopause, like
Hmm.
kind
Yeah.
of not sure of who we are anymore. It's like being a teenager, only you've got like 40 some years of living behind you. So, you're more aware of everything that's happening. But so many of the women I'm talking to, myself included, are finding this time of our lives to be really rich and fulfilling because we are seeing how all of these seemingly random, seemingly disconnected parts of our past are tying together, and we can make something so beautiful and so powerful out of them that I'm getting shivers all over my body
I
right now
know.
that
It's
we
crazy, right?
couldn't do. We couldn't have done it when we were 20. Like we just didn't have it. Like we might have had more
Yep.
energy in some ways, although I find that when you find
Different.
your passion is able to provide that energy that youth doesn't have, as well as your wisdom, which says, stop now and go sleep.
Yep,
Get
exactly. Or
something to eat.
I think I could get
Of course, you're
hurt.
grouchy. Your blood sugar's dropping, you fool. Go eat. You
Maybe I'll
know?
get a ladder. I think I can get hurt on this incident right here, right? Exactly. It's true.
Yeah.
So we consider ourselves first generation farmers, even though Dan, my husband Dan, grew up on his dairy farm as the fourth generation milking. And
And
so
your dad was a farmer.
yeah, so we both consider ourselves first generation farmers just because our land is new to us. It wasn't, we had to purchase it ourselves, so it wasn't like this was some part of a big family farm that we received. Um, and we farm differently than our predecessors did. So we don't have a dairy farm, although everyone keeps talking about dairy, and that's on the goal list, right? Of if you want dairy cows, who's doing the work? Because it's
Yeah.
not this mother. Um,
Good
and
girl.
so so our son is getting ready to head off to college, and he's, talking about what he wants to do. And, we're encouraging him to like try all things. And, how do you know at 18 years old what you want to do in your life? Because clearly at 18, I would have never said I was a farmer, right? So I
No.
have to be very cautious about, what you say. And so he said to me, Mom, I want to be a generational farmer. And right, that stopped me in my tracks because it realized, wow, these kids that we never forced to like do farm chores have bought into how valuable this lifestyle is, right? What we do here, whether it's the food we create, whatever it is for that particular child that makes him want to stay here
Yep.
is really powerful, right? And I didn't expect him to say that actually. I thought he was going to like go off onto like, I want to own my own excavation company, or to say that he wants to be a farmer was really powerful.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna let that percolate for a minute for myself because it is a big moment, right, to think about
Yeah,
that.
and to let him have that and to not do what earlier generations tend to do and say, get off the farm, go do
Hmm.
something else, because farming is harder than most of the other careers you can do and less financially secure,
Yeah, and there may have
arguably,
been some of that sprinkled in
arguably.
with our son. I'll say, well, you see how hard mom and dad work, right? So first I'll say, we want you to be a farmer, right? Like that brings us no greater joy than for you to want to work the land and work the animals and bring good to your community, right? That's a powerful thing to be able to do. But I said, you see that both of your parents work for other people, right? So like the finances don't always align. And so, we want him to be able to pave a path that allows him to farm, but have something that's in a reliable income source, because I think that unfortunately is a necessity, at least for us,
Yeah.
and many people that I know who are getting into farming these days. But anyway, that's just it. That's full circle, right?
Yeah, so many things. And he may find yet a different type, like as I'm hearing what you're saying, I'm also thinking, he's coming into farming from a completely different perspective now. Like he is a generational farmer. There
Mhm.
is going to be land that's more accessible for him because you've created it. And
Right.
so perhaps his opportunity and his interests may create a situation where he is able to do more or all of his income off farm.
And
And
that
it
would
just
be
might look
wonderful.
totally different. Again, might look, I'm listening to the excavator thing and I'm like, oh, I see so many potential
Yeah.
synergies there that,
Yep.
would still be an on-farm type thing, but you could also be doing contract work with all of that and
Yep.
making darn good money because, you
A
know,
100%, right?
you make
And
really good money digging
And I think,
septics.
yeah, I think the reality is we struggled with it. My husband is an engineer. He has a very much a 9 to 5 job, and that is very rigid, and he can't step away from that. And he works an hour from home, right? So there's a lot of
Mm,
barriers. And so when I
yeah.
think about like our son and our other children's future in agriculture, whatever that may look like, to find careers that have the flexibility to let you work some farm jobs. I think back, sorry to go off on a tangent, but I think
No,
back when I
you're
was a
not.
kid, I remember growing up in the town next door and our bus driver was a farmer. And at the time I didn't think much of it, but now in hindsight, I'm like, wow, that was kind of brilliant, right? That it gave them an income, but
Yep.
didn't tie them down in the middle of the day, right? So
Yep.
they were still able to do farm things. So I think about that with our kids. Like, how can they keep their feet in agriculture if they
Yeah.
want, and yet still have careers or jobs?
Creativity. It's
Hmm.
all about like, can we think outside of the box? Can
Yep.
we broaden that? And I want to go back to one other thing that you were saying because you did say that you struggle sometimes. And I would like to, because we all do.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love it when I have guests who are so honest with that because, we want to normalize the discussion of the hard things in life as well. I think that's a huge goal of this podcast is just to talk about the fact that sometimes life is really hard, especially for farmers. So what do you do? Well, on those days that you feel like you don't want to go to bed, I mean, don't get you just want to stay in bed. You don't want to
Just
get
want to
out
stay
of
in
bed.
bed.
What do you do? What kind of self-care do you implement? How do you take care of yourself?
Yeah. So, and I don't do it well. So please don't hear the things that I aspire to do. I don't always do well. And sometimes I need a nudge. So I have a really close friend who's not into agriculture and knows nothing about what I do, but can understand it sometimes. Just last night, she sent me a text. I was like, I'm really in a funk. This is a legitimate text that I sent yesterday. I said, I'm really in a funk right now. And she's like, I would offer you help, but I don't know if you would accept it or what I would do. And I think that right there is something I have to practice every day is being able to ask for help and willingly receive it, right? And figuring out ways in my own life to ask for help. So recently, within the last 6 months, this has become a challenge for me. And so I'm now better at asking my parents to pick up my kids from school. So rather than if I'm in a zone, I keep working and I ask someone else to pick my kids up. They're retired, they want to be involved, and this
Yeah.
is a great way to have that happen. So for me, as I said, asking for help is hard. So I have to find ways that I can personally do it and feel like, okay, I've let that go. I know that mom's going to get them and that they're
Mm.
going to be where they need to be. And if they're not,
Oh my
they're
gosh.
they're
And
teenagers. They'll
and
they'll figure
and
it
and
out.
again, you said so much there. So first of all, you said I got to recognize I need help. So here's like the steps I'm hearing to break it down for people. We got to recognize that we need help. We second of all need to identify things that other people can help us with. So, you know, picking up the kids. What can you help me with? Then we've got to get comfortable with having somebody else help us. And I
It's
think
hard.
I think those the two things there, identifying what other people can do because we're not used to it. We're used to looking at it and saying, "Well, I can do this. I know how to pick up my kids." But you can't pick up your kids and be working on somebody else's farm plan at the same time. You can't be
Mhm.
doing it. So you have to choose to do one or the other at any given time.
Yep.
And then you've got the people there. There are people that you trust. There are people that love you, you love, and this is an opportunity for your kids and their grandparents to hang out together in a way
Yep.
that not every grandparent gets to hang out with their grandkids.
Exactly.
So, just in a non-pressure, like there's nothing, we're just driving to and from school. And so to shift it from, oh, this is something that I'm failing at, and to look at and to say, no, actually, I'm doing multiple things. First of all, we're being super productive because being super productive is when we have somebody else doing work that we want to
Mhm.
get done and we're not doing it ourselves. So you want your kids being picked up safely at school. Somebody else is doing it. You've just moved from productive to super productive. Kudos for you.
Yep.
And you're building relationships, giving an opportunity for that, and you're taking the pressure off of you which then frees you up so that when your kids do come home, instead of being like, oh, I had to stop this to go get them, now I'm behind.
Hmm.
Now you've gotten
Lost
your
my
stuff.
mindset.
Lost my mojo. Oh, my kids know that all the time. I'm like, please don't interrupt me when I'm in the middle of editing a paragraph. Like, I
Yeah,
can't
don't do
answer
it.
you right now. Like, you got to give me a minute
Yeah, if
because
you
I got
see
to.
me over here on the computer, I'm really not listening to you anyway.
I've told them, I'm like, you got to understand when you ask me a question and I'm working, I'm like, I have to ask you, you can't just start asking three times. You got to ask and you got to wait because it takes a few minutes for the question to get into my head, for my brain to stop doing what I'm doing, to think about the words you said, and
Yep.
then actually understand and create a response. And they have learned that. But
Yeah,
again, it took
leave them
me
all alone.
explaining it to them because you don't
True.
see that on the outside. So, but those steps that you're taking, every time we do that once, it's building a skill because again, asking for help is a skill. It's
Mhm.
something that some of us naturally do better than others, and farmers are usually not real good
We're
at it.
notoriously bad at asking for help.
And you were a teacher,
Yeah.
which is, I also was a teacher. So you've got that, there's this sense of responsibility and, you know, being the one who
Hmm.
who takes care of everybody and gets
Yeah,
them where they need to go.
I think you said it really well. It was actually the point I was going to get to, and you had already done it. It's hard to acknowledge that I'm not a failure, right? And so sometimes when we ask for help, and having older kids, sometimes they articulate it this way, and it's a teaching lesson. It's a teachable moment, right? To talk about, well, it's not because mom can't or doesn't want to. It's mom is prioritizing, not anybody over you, right? So kids see it as you're prioritizing something that's more important than they are, and that's
Right.
not it at all, right? So that's teaching them, but it's really hard to sometimes go, wow, I already wear a superhero cape. I don't need to fly with it too sometimes, right? And so letting someone else do that and still knowing that I'm still their mom, I'm still a wife, I'm still a farmer, and I'm still proud of the things I do, it doesn't make me any less when I have to ask for help. And that's hard for me, right? Because
Mm.
I want to do it all, but I can't. And I don't
No,
want to
and
pretend I
and we're
could.
not supposed to. I think that's the other thing. Like we really need to work on shifting our culture and this is an American thing as well. Like I definitely feel like this is a byproduct of our very individualized American culture that other cultures do not struggle with in the same way. For example, if you were over in like China, this rugged individualism, I got to do it all myself, would not be
Mm-mm.
the issue. It would actually be a different issue
Correct.
where, we're all one unit and everything that everybody does is a
Yeah.
reflection on everybody else. Like
China
it's
needs some individuality.
right, exactly. So it's like we
A
all take
balance.
it to an
Yeah,
extreme somewhere. And for Americans, that whole idea of connection is really hard. And I think it's especially hard for farmers because we've got this culture. Like if you just look at the expansion of our country, like it was the people who moved out and populated the country tended to be farmers and
hmm.
woodsmen and the trappers and all of
Yep.
these people who liked being on their own
Yep. I was gonna say
because
free spirits or,
yes, and
yes.
and we're entrepreneurs, and that's the other
Mhm.
thing. Like farmers are entrepreneurs, and there is something about that entrepreneurial spirit that doesn't want to be controlled, doesn't want to be, you know, told what to do, and likes doing a lot of different things on our own. And we're good
Absolutely.
at it. That's the thing. We're good at it. So we think if we're good at it, we should have to do more and more and more. And
Yep.
I agree. We definitely need to kind of rein that in and to start with what are things I can let go of and look at it as being super productive and also find the benefits to other people because
Right.
honestly, like having our kids think that we're always there for them 24/7 is not healthy. Like,
No,
yeah, they
nope.
need that. They need that when they're nursing babies because
hmm
that's when they, again, going back to that
Yeah, our
attachment.
kids can now make meals on their own. I can go off on a business trip to another farm and I can say, "Hey, can you start dinner?" Or their at-home responsibilities have shifted, getting a load of laundry in, or just simple tasks like switching it to the dryer, right? Our kids have skills that when they go off on their own, at least they know how to do these things. And they
Yeah.
also know that we don't function as a family unless we're all in it.
Yeah.
Because when it was just mom doing it all, we weren't doing much very well.
No, well, it's too much. I tell my kids all the time, I'm a single mom. And so I've got two kids and a cat. And I look at them all the time and I'm like, I'm sorry. I clean up after myself.
Yep.
And then I've got three little bodies going along and undoing everything that I
Everything.
do. I'm like, so
Like little
how in the
tornadoes.
world do you think I'm supposed to keep up with three
Right.
other bodies and do the stuff I'm actually responsible for? I'm like,
Mhm.
that is a
Not
physical
happening.
impossibility, and the fact that you even think I should do that is ridiculous. And so I'm the same way. I mean, like I said, my kids are 12 and 13. I'm like, you do your own laundry.
Yep.
It's not because I can't do your laundry. I do my own laundry. I don't make
Yep.
them put my laundry in. I do the sheets and the towels and, but I'm like, go wash your clothes,
Yep. Building skills. We're
Exactly,
building skills.
exactly. And, this happens to me every week as I get to the end and I'm like, oh, we're running out of time and I would love to talk to you for like 3 more hours. We're going to have to get together and just have coffee for fun.
Absolutely.
Totally. But before I let you go, I'm going to ask you the question I ask all of my guests, which is if you had one piece of advice that you felt every farmer should know, what would that be?
I now know this because of my role at American Farmland Trust. And this is not a pitch to my job
No,
whatsoever.
no.
It truly is not. I want other farmers to know that there are service providers who are not looking for cost share programs, who are not looking for, following incentives or rules, that there truly are service providers out there who are there to support you for your farm and your best interests. And sometimes that's just a conversation. Sometimes it's just listening, right? So sometimes part of my job, I get to just listen to other people and I didn't know, every state has different extension opportunities and not every extension is functioning very well. But there are places that we can go, even if it's a fellow farmer, right? We need to ask other people for help. And I don't mean like help, like how to farm day to day, but just ask other people like what's worked for you, or I noticed that you did some fence project or some project on your farm and that was really cool, can I ask you more about it? 9 times out of 10 that farmer's going to be really excited to talk to you about it, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to spend all day, but they're going to be really excited. So whether it's a service provider or your neighbor farmer, to go back to your community point, that's also ways to bridge effective communication amongst the farming community. Is if you can celebrate something someone's doing really well that you want to bring back onto your farm, they're willing to share it
Yeah.
often. So I would say definitely lean in. Farmers should be leaning into each other as farmers more than we do,
Mm.
to just get advice, input, help. And then there's a whole slew of service providers who are willing to come alongside that conversation also. So ask a
Yeah.
neighbor, ask a phone a neighbor, phone a neighbor. That's my advice.
Absolutely. And I think going back to your texting your friend and saying, I'm just in a funk, build that community of people that you can text that to because,
hmm
our farm operations are important. Of course they are. And like I constantly say, if our farmers aren't there, then we've just got dirt because
hmm
we need somebody to be operating it, to be making it into a productive farm. And so the stuff that you're going through as a person matters. And I love your whole message about community and really leaning into each other and phone a neighbor.
Oh,
Phone
phone a
a
friend, phone a
neighbor.
farmer. Anyway, thank you so very much. This has been wonderful.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. I have loved having you, and thank all of you. And hopefully, we will see you next week on Food, Flowers, and Fun.
How do you multiply by fractions, Mom?
Farmworks calling, our show is all done. Goodbye, farewell, so long, adieu. See you next week, same time, same place for food, flowers, and fun. Go in peace. Visit us at www.penlightfarmers.com.